What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the second album by rock band No Doubt. Basically, this product is called the Beacon Street Collection, and it came out in the spring of 1995. So the thing about this particular product is this is around the time when No Doubt had dropped two albums within the year as far as those pitches kind of happened. This is the first of the two albums they dropped. Tragic Kingdom was basically seen as like a classic album and a signature album of like the 90s, went pretty much over 10, 11 tons platinum as far as those pitches going to happen. Had some hit singles on there, like had some hit singles on that particular album, like Spiderwebs, Don't Speak, and Just a Girl. As far as those pitches kind of happened, the promotion cycle for that particular album lasted from about the fall, late summer, fall of 1995, all the way to about the spring or so of 1998. So it's a pretty big deal. But this album was kind of the cycle before, as far as those pitches kind of happened. They were trying to get their foot in the door, but it was because of this album that they got the budget to be able to put out their Tragic Kingdom album that was just a definitive album of the 90s. But this is a pretty excellent album here. Now, it's been a while since I've covered No Doubt, pretty much since about the spring as far as those pitches kind of happened, but I did like their 2012 album, Pushed and Shoved. And there was actually another one. I think I actually reviewed like Return to Saturn back in the spring as far as those pitches kind of happened, but those are some excellent type fares. This album's pretty similar to Tragic Kingdom and Return to Saturn, some of those type fares. It's interesting that No Doubt didn't switch their style up within that tone. I mean, they wound up, I mean, this album's going to get pretty close to like a classic score, just right on the cusp of getting a classic. It was just kind of within the tone that even in their earlier days, basically they have this kind of ska punk type sound, which is kind of within the pitch, very similar to Tragic Kingdom, Return to Saturn. Like I was saying, was just within the tone that the songwriting's a little bit more sketchy on this particular project, and I kind of wondered why. I thought it was just because it was more in their early days, as far as that fair kind of having this more melding into style, but apparently Eric Stefani, which is Gwen Stefani's brother, was a different songwriter for the band as far as those pitches kind of happened. Gwen Stefani kind of had some songwriting on Tragic Kingdom. Now, I do like the particular style of this album. Some excellent type fare here. Some excellent stuff to kind of get. This is the same sort of stuff as on Return to Saturn and Tragic Kingdom. I just look after within the tone. But I kind of feel like this particular album has more styles to like Sublime and some of those type pitches. Now, I have not listened to like No Doubt's album. I have not listened to No Doubt's 1992 album, but these particular albums, the concept behind it is not a lot of not a lot of the tracks from these first two albums. It seems moreover that like Tragic Kingdom was No Doubt's true debut within the pitch behind it, just because that was their more commercial standpoint. With like some of this, with like a number of singles off that particular album, Just a Girl, Don't Speak, Spiderweb, some of those type pitches, the bigger type ones off that particular album that just were dominant in like the second half of the 90s. But I do feel like this album's good. I think it's pretty much on the cusp of a classic, but I will say that it just doesn't have like the number ones, the number threes on here, some of those type pitches, the definitive kind of singles. Just has a different type pitch, but that's just kind of the tone. It is good. It's just not as casual. That's what I'm looking for. It's just the fact that it's just not as casual this particular time, just within the tone behind it. Just like it had said, like on Wikipedia, it said that apparently some radio promoter or something like that, some folk that was on like a radio network that was trying to get spins would said that it would have taken an act of God to have gotten No Doubt on the radio back in like 93, 94, as far as those pitches kind of happen. But as far as that particular kind of goes, but I look after it. I do think that they definitely had the ability to make songs on here. It's just the concept that they just needed like a defining kind of hook, something like that, like Don't Speak or Just a Girl, one of those type ones. I just feel like, and it's interesting that this particular Paramount rise just happened as quickly as it did. Just going from this album in like March of 1995 to Tragic Kingdom in October of 95. Just the transformation. Really, I want to say some of the singles like Just a Girl probably came out August, September of 95. So it happened pretty quickly, just the defining concept that they got towards it. But it was just kind of within the tone that particular pitch was just, this is, excellent type music. This doesn't have like the radio staple. So it's just kind of more in hardcore type territory, more like I almost question whether or not this album's going to be on Spotify. I'm glad that it was, as far as those pitches kind of happened, just because I just don't know. The two singles off here, Squeal and Doghouse, I don't know how super commonly these particular songs get played on the air. I feel like really No Doubt started with the Tragic Kingdom project as far as US, or as far as like routine kind of radio airplay, but there's some good stuff on here. So yeah, basically, yeah, like I was saying, there's two singles off this particular album. There's only 10 songs on here. Dope enough. I basically wound up recommending 9 out of 10. I think I said there's only 12 songs. There's only 10 songs on this particular album. Out of those 10 songs, I wound up recommending 9. So this album's going to virtually get a 10 out of 10. You would think 9 out of 10 would be a 10 out of 10. The only reason why it's not going to get a 10 out of 10, I'll go ahead and say it's going to get a 9.75 out of 10. The only reason why it's not going to get a 10 is just because the factoid. I mean, this is some excellent type stuff here just within the pitch behind it. It's just the fact that the casualized type appeal. I do like a lot of these songs, but in terms of the ofteness of like the full blown velocity of me listening to a lot of these, this is a little bit more of an acquired taste for something when you just want something with a little bit more radio flash and a little bit more familiarity as far as those pitches can happen. But it is excellent typeness at 9.75. great music on here. It's just kind of the concept of that in terms of if you're looking for something that you can just wake up a Friday morning or a Saturday evening pitches like that and just be able to listen to some of these songs and say, oh, there's Squeal on the radio or something like that, or there's Doghouse. This doesn't have as much appeal within that. But for the most, I mean, there's definitely some good frolic type music and there's plenty of evening type fare, but we'll get to a lot of that. But yeah, the first single is Squeal. This is a nice one. It's like a ska-like kind of evening hop and bop to kind of get here. Just on the way to like a night venue, I would definitely feel like about this one just kind of after the work shift, some of that type fare, just great for like 4:30, 5:30 p.m. pitches like that. Just that standard evening slag. I'd say just some nice bristle about this particular song and summer breeze kind of get here. This really feels California just within the sense of some of that type fare, just standard sunny day hop and bop just within the tone behind it. Just really appreciate the tone behind some of these. I feel like this is kind of like a more kind of just ska-like version of like Just a Girl. I'd have to say just within the tone. Just a Girl has a little bit more emphatic type production, a little bit more electro kind of within the sense, but this is just a more typical kind of skateboard punk type feel just within the tone behind it. That's pretty typical of No Doubt as far as those pitches kind of happen. This is just kind of like a real kind of rough draft around the edges kind of single as far as those pitches kind of happen. Great song on here, but just didn't have like the mammoth kind of hook to be able to back it full blown, I have to say, but it is a great song. Do you like the concept of just getting towards some of this? If you're just getting right ahead to like a karaoke bar, dance club, night venue, some pitches like that, restaurant, some of that type of just some good bounce and pep to kind of have amongst that just once you're done with the work shift. And Doghouse is an interesting type one. This is a different taste of a single here, just kind of an interesting concept. There weren't songs like this, particularly on Tragic Kingdom or really many further other No Doubt albums. This one's a little bit autumn related. I just feel like this is a little bit more gothic within the sense that it keeps the ska type tone, but it's just within the weirdness of it. This is like a woozy and kind of eerie night hop to kind of get here. Just some vanilla frolic, I would definitely feel like. Typical kind of fare, but it's just peppy but kooky, I would have to say about this particular one. Interesting pitch for it. Just some good Autumn Johnson, like some hazes to kind of get within that tone. So just kind of something if you like No Doubt, but you want like some music from them that could probably be played around the Halloween season, October, November, some of that type fare, just a good kind of some good kind of crisp type feels as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just a good, nice one for some of that, just haunted house type music, just more kind of gothic type outing. I mean, it very much still has the pep. I mean, this is a pretty vanilla band here. I just look within the tone. I mean, I think ska was kind of alternative just because of the fact that amongst this particular time, there were just leftover remnants of grunge. I mean, especially in 92 when they dropped their first album. But with this particular album, it's still the leftover of just getting towards folks like Foo Fighters and Weezer and Green Day and some of those type of folks, just the amalgamation of what was kind of happening. But, you know, this particular album is before Gwen Stefani was kind of a household name with songs like Don't Speak and Just a Girl and some of those type ones, Spiderweb, some of those type pitches that I'd say just in the tone. But it just was kind of the concept that just some leery typeness kind of get type fare. But yeah, so like I was saying, I recommend every song off this particular album with the exception of Snakes. So I'll just go ahead and talk about that one. Basically, Snakes just kind of had like a more kind of just abrasive kind of tone just within it. It was just kind of one that were just it had like the more like there are some songs in this particular album that have a little bit more edgier kind of rock bass. There are some songs in this album that have a little bit edgier instrumentation with the band work as far as those pitches can happen. I definitely feel like Greener Pastures kind of does that, and I think Snakes kind of does that as well. But Snakes is just one that just the composition of that song just didn't nail it nearly as well. It's just kind of a more just ruffled type one. There are some ones that have a little bit more of ruffled day type fare, and it's good concept for that within that tone. But Snakes just didn't nail it nearly as well. But so yeah, this album gets a 9.75 out of 10. This album gets a 9.75 out of 10. So we'll talk about some of these on here. I'll go ahead and talk about Greener Pastures. It's a nice one. It's like a nice amidst the work shift kind of late day slag to kind of get here. I would definitely feel like this typical kind of Tuesday juror to kind of have. This reminds me of something like Tool or some of those type folks. Bush or Tool. Bush with Glycerine. Tool with like Prison Sex or one of those type songs, or like Sober, some of those type ones. It's more standard kind of early mid 90s type fare to some of that slag of just kind of the work shift just amid some of those times. This would say one of those type ones. It's kind of like it's almost metal, this kind of remnants of just some metal in there, just a little bit of like a rougher type rock song. Just really appreciate some of this work shifted disc. Probably more of like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock p.m. just within the pitch. We're still got a little few more hours left of the workday, just kind of Tuesday music, possibly within certain senses Monday type music, Wednesday type music, just within the tone. Just kind of something where more edgy kind of SFW type songs would pop up just amidst like the standard work week within that particular tone. I have to say it's a little bit harder than usual, this particular song off this album. So it's a good type pitch, just getting some of that type fare just within that type of just conduct, just kind of standard day type dredge just within the concept of it. Most of this particular album is just more the embrace of just got done with amongst things. But if you do have, if you're like washing dishes, some pitches like that, and you just have some loud music blaring as far as those pitches gonna happen. Supposing the music's up to you or whatever, it's just a good pitch kind of get this good album cut to kind of have here. Probably could have worked as like a single. I mean, this definitely rips from like Tool and some of those folks. Like I was saying, just a good pitch for some of that. Just great Tuesday kind of dredge, typical type fare. Good hard rock type one or good metal type one. Total Hate 95 is a nice one. This has Bradley Noel from Sublime. Pretty good pitch to get one of his last appearances just within that tone. Do you like the fare behind that one? This is like a skittering kind of paced night venue bounce kind of get here. This one reminds me of Excuse Me Mister from Tragic Kingdom. I'd have to say this is just like some foot tapping job kind of have within that. So this is definitely one just for like some night venue bounce, some of that type fare, just kind of product of just being out and about, just more typical kind of not necessarily coffee shop, but just more low key pub crawl typeness just to be able to get. No Doubt did a number of these on like their Tragic Kingdom album. I want to say at least two or possibly three singles out of the 8 off of that particular album had some of that type fare. Originally, I thought it was Spiderwebs. I don't think it was that one, but Excuse Me, Mister was at least one of those. I think it's at least, like I was saying, a couple more that might have that particular kind of frenetic, this kind of dance club relative bounce about it. But it is a nice type fare to kind of get. Stricken is a nice one. It's like an out on the evening prowl kind of date night glaze kind of get here. Just some dredgy kind of restaurant enjoy. I would definitely feel like this Wings and Convo type tune to kind of get. This Wings and Convo kind of bar hop or just hop in general kind of have within that pitch. There's some good nice ones. So a lot of this just like Return to Saturn was just kind of more for like personal life, some of that type fare, just date afternoons, date evenings, pitches like that. It's more personal, homely type fare just with it. And by personal, otherwise, I mean like this bill paying type music and just standard fare of just not like amidst like the worship, but just, you know, more amongst like maybe errands or hobbies, pitches like that just within the tone. But it just works. I definitely feel like romantic wise that Stricken's pretty good date night type one. There is another one like that on there. There's a few other ones. Like I would say, say By the Way is a nice one that has that particular rouse, and I'd say Blue in the Face is another nice one that has some of that rouse as well. So some good pitches for that. So yeah, Blue in the Face, pretty good appeal. It's like a restaurant and social campus kind of house to kind of get within that tone. Just some comfy fun to kind of be able to have. Just jovial, definitely it pairs with Stricken. I would definitely say it's just a stock kind of hit for No Doubt for those pitches kind of happen. Just good typeness just for some date outs just within that type fare. Just getting wings, going to wing stops, some of those type places. TGI Fridays, some of those type places just within the tone. Olive Garden, some of those type pitches to be able to get some of that. Just more not as I mean, it's just kind of more amidst like standard social hops where those pitches kind of happen just within the tone. There's actually not a ton of songs like Total Hate 95 as far as those pitches kind of happen or Just a Girl off of Tragic Kingdom. I think definitely that's another concept of this album possibly needed. It's within the fair, it's pretty excellent type stuff here, but it's just within the tone. I'd probably say the two most social songs in terms of something that's just not more restaurant type fare or just more kind of social campus type fare. Just within that would probably be Doghouse and Total Hate 95. But just within that tone does have pretty good just personal life type does have pretty good personal life type bounce kind of get within that. So a nice appealing one. This is probably one of my more favorite ones on here in terms of the immediate factor would be Open the Gate. This is like a slog kind of evening embrace. I would feel like here it goes great with Squeal. I would definitely say it's a good 1-2 punch for that one. This probably could have been a promo single back in the day, just some good work shift relief. I would feel like here, and it has a pretty catchy hook. So this, yeah, it has one of the best hooks on here. This is like one of the most ready to go in terms of the affluence just behind just what kind of happens just within like the bite of like the immediateness of it. This would have to say. This one's pretty close to being on par with like Don't Speak and Just a Girl, some of those type ones. And from their later albums like Return to Saturn, some of those type pitches that I'd say was a good type tone. It's kind of just like one of those type ones is kind of like similar to like that, just embrace and just overall good time. But just got done with worship, just kind of the tone, just without the alternative hot topic type fare, just about just kind of something like, yep, I'm going straight to the dance club, going to get some bar shots, some of that type of time. I'm just going to go visit some friends, some of those type pitches, just hit up some buddies, just some pitches like that, get some good stuff, go rent a movie, some of those type tones just to be able to get. So yeah, I would say Squeal and Open the Gate are two nice ones for that, like that. Squeal and Open the Gate are two nice ones for like that after worship kind of embrace. I'm trying to think of some other songs I haven't talked about on here. I want to say that That's Just Me is another quality one. It's like an in-between kind of late day extra time to kind of have for some of those pitches. Just errands type music and a ruffled day type fare. Just like some vanilla kind of vintage, no doubt I'd have to say. Definitely feels pretty interchangeable with like the songs off of Tragic Kingdom and Return to Saturn. I'd have to say within that pitch, just standard type fare. This is what I was talking about when I was saying that No Doubt has pretty much like the same style throughout. Like at least from this album to at least Return to Saturn. These three albums, the Beacon Street Collection, Tragic Kingdom, and Return to Saturn have pretty much just identical kind of ska punk, just kind of standard day slag within that fare behind it with some good stuff. So yeah, it just happens to be the tones. I think I talked about every song on here as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just would have to say, actually, I don't think I talked about By the Way. So this is another nice one here. It's like a Pink Skies kind of evening romance, kind of get within that tone. Just a good deep night in restaurant times kind of have within that fare. Just out on the night tone as far as those pitches kind of happen. Yeah, by the way, it's just a standard spicy night as far as those pitches can happen. Just enjoy some good food, get some convo going as far as those pitches can happen. Just have some social bites as far as those pitches can happen. Just real nice, rousing type one. Good fare for that. It's good pitch. So I look after, yeah, this album gets a 9.75 out of 10. I'd have to say just within the tone behind it. It's excellent type fare. The social score, that's kind of tricky. I think I could probably give the social score. I would like to give the social score a 10 out of 10 just because of all the connecting songs. It would probably be more and like either like an 8.75 or a 9 type territory. I'll give it a 9 just because the quality of the songs is on here. There's a number of these that just have some pretty good fare. Definitely some good date night. Definitely some good personal life and spicy type music to kind of get within that tone combined with like some good worship kind of afterwards relief as far as those pitches kind of go. Good heading to like the dance venue, like maybe at least one or two type songs on here for like being amidst like the dance, maybe at least one or two songs on here for being at least amidst the dance venue, like Total Hate 95 and Doghouse as far as those pitches can happen, having some social comedy just amidst the tone or just like standard frolic. Some good stuff just within those particular PLs. But I mean, the social bite about this project is definitely there. It just lacks like the mammoth kind of song that would be like ubiquitous to like the 90s or pitch like that, which the next album definitely had. But these three albums, like I was talking about, are very similar within the fashions. Just basically, if you do like the more mammoth albums, but no doubt this is just more of like the good stuff that they particularly do, just without like the radio champions of songs that kind of have. But the singles are pretty good, and there's definitely some good social spark on here. But that's just the tone. So 9 social. In terms of the future, like No Doubt has not put out an album since 2012. I think they've basically broken up as far as those pitches can happen. But the good news is the fact that Gwen Stefani at least dropped like a new solo album in 2024, so she has some new pitches as far as that particular kind of happens. I look after it, but there is at least one more No Doubt album I'm going to get to, which is the 1992 album. Then we'll get towards some of the rest of these, like the Gwen Stefani stuff there. I also have to get to her 2016 album. So just within that tone, but I look after it. I would definitely say this is another stock highlight here, underappreciated classic. I would definitely feel like within that tone, pretty blistering just within the aspect, such a bite-sized type album, but it nails it just within the aspect behind it. Just nails it within the aspect behind it. Underrated type project, and pretty much I would have to say signature to the 90s that just continues the trends of what they dominated throughout those particular times.